Yeah. What's up, everybody? Sorry I'm late again. I guess I should just start saying it's noon. I hit some traffic on the freeway on the way here. There must have been an accident or something because right at the end, like a mile from my exit, it slowed down to nothing. So that kind of screwed me up time-wise. Who's watching the football? I got a little football on. Kind of pay attention here a little bit every now and then, see what's going on, see who's winning. Just gonna leave it over there though. I won't get distracted. What's happening? What's new? What happened this week? Let me think. I put out a couple videos. The Roswell microphone, the EQ from hell, the parametric EQ. Anybody watch my videos? I think the mic. I think I had the EQ from hell video out before last Sunday live, didn't I? I think I did. But the mic video came out on Monday, I think, or Tuesday, something like that. Anyways, any questions about those? Let me know about that stuff. And I'm working on more right now. I have here on my desk. Might be hard to show you, but I can see if I can get it in the frame. Yeah, there we go. Look at that thing. So this is the crazy, it's called the Big Time from Chase Bliss. Moving fader automation and faders just to kind of adjust a bunch of features. It's a delay, a crazy delay though. It's a lovely modulation box too. It does beautiful, kind of chorusing or sounds resembling vibrato, things like that. As well as some crazy freak out kind of stuff, different kinds of special effecty kind of effect sounds. It sounds really juicy. The one thing about it is it's got this preamp circuit that lets you kind of both the sounds of the delays, but also the dry signal going in. You can kind of goose with it, which is pretty neat, and just kind of push into it a little bit, and it can kind of juice up your tone, like in a way that is kind of unique for a delay. You can get a really, really nice sounding old school digital delay. It'll do kind of analog type sounds as well. But yeah, it's got this different modes in it, like for the delay sounds. So there's a hi-fi full digital mode. There's a mode called Focus that I love. One called Warm and one called Analog. And the Focus mode just makes the delays. I think what it's doing, I'm not 100% sure about this, but it sounds to me like maybe what it's doing is lopping off certain frequencies and kind of focusing the delay a little bit more in the mid-range to give it a really nice, distinct tone separate from the dry sound. And then the Warm and Analog, pretty self-explanatory. The Analog gets really quite dark, sounds much more like a carbon copy or something like that in analog mode. And then it's also got this state situation that kind of has it's also sort of a voicing of the tone, but those are labeled digital, compressor, saturated, and then kind of it's like a screwed up mode. I don't know. It's like a bunch of, like a hashtag and a percent sign and a, kind of like a swearing insignia. I don't know how to say it, but anyways, those different things also tune the sound and the tone and the delay. Like the compressed mode is really interesting, where it kind of squishes the delays, and saturated mode definitely has a saturation distortion on the delays. That see, you can do all kinds of things with it. I thought it was going to be very sort of like straight up, almost like a delay with a preamp, like kind of PCM 42, and it'll do that. But there's much more you can do with it than that, including, some of the most beautiful sort of chorusing and stuff that I've ever heard. Not that you can't, I guess you could do that with PCM, but it's much more than just a old school delay with some faders in a box. It's really something. So anyways, working on some clips for it. Originally, and I might still do this, I'm making a video and I was going to either just compare it to like a PCM 42, which there's one here. I could do that. And I may still do that, but maybe, I think that might be interesting Not that I don't even know if a lot of people like. Is anybody in the chat even have a perspective on what a PCM 42 sounds like? You know, it's kind of an old school delay at this point. That's a little esoteric, I would say. It's not like something like that. A ton of people like the old rack delays. How many of you guys like have a handle on like what an SDE 3000 sounds like, or a PCM 42, like the preamp, you know, in it and stuff was kind of what made them extra magic. Anyway. What else? One thing I did this week that was kind of interesting, I got a chance to try one of those new Marshall JCM 800 modifieds. And that was interesting. They did a pretty good job, and I have to say it's a pretty cool amp. They, like, if you were looking for a JCM 800, pretty cool option. Just in the sense that it does have some cool voices. Like, it'd be a good studio amp, I think. I mean, it'd be great if you're kind of a one sound live person too, because you can't do any of the switching on the fly. But, you know, for a studio, like, you can definitely get some more. I know they put out like the Dookie amp, you know, that kind of sound, but you can definitely get into some of that territory with it, like that drier kind of a little more scooped, you know, just fat but tight distortion. It'll do that stuff, but it'll also do more like kind of angry mid forward kind of sounds as well, with just some of the switching options on it and stuff. It was pretty cool. It was like, oh yeah, this is a good new Marshall, actually. Good sounds. So it had a thing. I gave it about a half an hour play. It was pretty cool. Todd Roy, thanks for mentioning. Yes, rest in peace, Wayne Charvel. Wayne passed away this week. Legend in the industry that helped change things for sure. The path of, I mean, obviously we know, the 70s into the 80s and Eddie Van Halen and, then a million other guitar players playing hot rod strats, that weren't Fender. And, he had a big impact. And that name will always be, it's pretty cool that, like, he sold the company fairly early on to the Charvel name and everything to Jackson, but it was still that name that carried on. And then even when Jackson kind of started phasing it out to move production of like what became, Charvels were by 86 or so, right? The name was sort of moved to the Japanese production and then became sort of, for a while there, synonymous with the overseas kind of Jacksons. It still came back, like I do like that, to give some credit, that Fender kind of, by 2003 or 4 had bought those names, and then we're sort of restoring some of the like USA custom shop Charvel. They saw the value in it, I think, which was smart, I think. And kind of, for the last 20 plus years, they've been, sort of lending, it's sort of the original, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, whatever that name meant, they're giving it its due or something. I'm not speaking articulately today, very articulately, but you know what I'm saying? It just kind of restored it to its former glory, the name, I think. Because always Charvel to me, in my mind, because I grew up with it, I still remember, like going to my local music store in Canada and seeing the first Charvels that had made it to my hometown, and some of the very first ones into Canada, I think, as a, a local store became a dealer, and there was 4 of them sitting there on stands, and by then they had the, hockey stick kind of headstocks or whatever, but I remember those guitars with 4 of them, with their custom graphic finishes and the Floyd Roses and the flat fingerboards, big frets in that headstock and everything. They were sitting there, and it was just like the coolest thing I'd ever seen, because I'd already seen my favorite players using them, and everybody was playing them back then. That was anybody, it was like kind of all the hot new guitar players. It was cool to have a Charvel. So it always had that effect on me. I was like, and to pick them up and play them, they played like butter and fast, and I just wanted one. Within a couple of years, I had my Jackson. By then, they'd moved the Charvel name, like I say, to being the Model 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all those Japanese made, which were great guitars too. Eventually I got a Model 2 from Japan. It was really cool. But anyways, yeah, I just remember the prestige, I guess, that went with the name, and it was kind of exclusive and custom, and it meant, cool, fun hot rod guitar for fun hot rod guitar playing. That's my memory of it. What's this question here, Braxall? Did you get a Friesman Jose? I don't have one, no. Maybe eventually, I'd probably, I can't really justify buying something like that when I have like a lot of similar stuff. I would have to sell the Germino, I would think, to kind of justify. I could move something else out to, so if I do that, it would probably be, sell the Germino that is a Jose, basically, to get Dave's version of it, but that's a pretty cool amp too. So I don't know, yeah. It's to be honest, it's sort of low on my list of things to do right now. Just from, I have other things. I mean, I do have a Friedman, the PT version 2 that's up there. You can't see it; it's way up there. But that amp has a very similar kind of voicing in a small amp. That kind of aggressively. I don't think they're that far off. So I have that around if I really want to get that. Gain stage in front of plexi boosted situation. Anyways, saw the videos, very good, says C Bush Z. Thanks, man, appreciate that. C Bush Z. Live from my treadmill in the garage, says Joe Peasy for Sheezy. What's up, man? Work it out. What mics do you think? There's a super chat. I'll grab that in a sec. Thank you for that. What mics do you think you'll use for a new album? Oh, that's a great question. The way I want to record, I actually started writing something this week. I have like 2 tunes right now, and I got to work towards 10. So, but I wrote kind of a fun thing this week. The way I kind of want to record, to be honest, is sort of live with a drummer and bass player. I can get some really good basics. So I don't know what that looks like. If it looks like me, and maybe amps in the room, like kind of goboed off with the drums, and like I need a room. I want to go to a place to do drums and stuff, and get something live. A little bit of band vibe, make it a real live off the floor kind of thing, and without a lot of overdubs. So with all that in mind, I do, like, for a core rig, I would want to do a great rig that I can bring in the studio and do some tracking with and get some keeper stuff, Mics, I mean, I would probably go the 1973 and a 57, or and then maybe a ribbon, and maybe print them all, something like that. Like a core guitar tone, print 3 tracks, like, why not? Probably do bass with, DI and a bass amp with a mic on it. And then, guitar spread over 3 tracks for a core tone that's really slamming, and I would probably use my old Blackback cab, one of the 2. I have a couple old Blackback cabs, so I would use one of the 2. That sounds like a good basic starter place, with, I don't know what amps, it would depend on the song, and I would probably bring, a PT to a studio, maybe the PT 100, an SL68, Era 30, because I love that thing. Yeah, and I could probably get most of what I need out of those. PT for Fender and my channel, obviously, modded channel 2. Era 30 for any kind of ACD, or sorry, I was going to say ACDC, any kind of AC30 is what I meant to say. And then the, SL68 would be cool. If you can't make it happen with that, then it ain't worth doing. Yeah, just a good old, old Celestian loaded cab with condenser, a dynamic, and a ribbon on it. I would think get some great tones, and maybe some room mics. That'd be fun. U87s or something. What else have we got here? Let's see what's going on in the game. Anything happening? Nothing happening yet. 0-0. Just looking through the somebody was saying there we go. That's the one I meant to light up. Haven't received mine yet. So excited. Chase Bliss is awesome. Yeah, this so you got a big time on order. I think they're just coming out now, I think is the deal. So or pretty soon. So Braxall says sad about Wayne. Remember meeting him in Paradise City at a shop. I was there recording some vocals in various places up there in the early 90s. That was where they had a big fire a few years ago, right? Which is really sad. So he's been through it for the last few years for sure. Yeah. Difficult. Fires, no fun. Fires everywhere. I've heard there's some rain in the east, so up by Thunder Bay, Ontario and stuff, and just generally kind of East Coast, right? So that should be helping with some of the wildfires, I would think. I don't know. Hope so. Do you have a VP4, says Braxall? If you have a VP4, do you really need an H9 Gen 2? Well, the H9 kind of becomes about, if you want those specific algorithms. I mean, there's some people that get very used to things like the Eventide micro pitch or black hole delay or, like ultra tap or like different algorithms, just like maybe there's some line 6 algorithms that people really like. And sometimes it's like affects certainly the old school sort of way of thinking about something like an Eventide or SPX 90 or PCM 42s were like those individual units had specific sounds that were really, really, really good. Now, can you get really close with a VP4? Yeah, probably. I mean, you can sit down and really tweak a VP4 to get, they're really good. I mean, the effects, fractal effects are excellent. They if you spend time on them, you can generally make them sound a lot like the other things that they're kind of trying to model and stuff like that. Or like their own thing entirely, but generally fractal effects are pretty damn good. So do you need it? No, but is it sexy? Yes. It's almost like, do you need hardware compressors and preamps and stuff? Probably not, but is it fun? Yes. That's kind of like the Chris Lord-Alge school of mixing, where it's like you see a studio and there's like that wall of outboard, but he'll use everything for a specific thing. Like, I don't really think he changes the settings much, bunch of 1176s set a certain way for like certain drum sounds or whatever, and they don't really change. It's kind of like, yeah, you plug into that box to get that thing that it does. And that's kind of the way that people used to use SPX 90s or PCMs or, before these things were even MIDI, or really had that many presets. I mean, like an ST 3000 was 4 preset buttons with no switching. I mean, it was kind of like you plug into it and you got the couple sounds that thing did. You set it up the way, that's how Eddie Van Halen used it. Used a few different delay times, no mod, none of the other stuff. And it was like, you plug into that to get that sound that it does. So anyways, when I think of something like an H9, it's a bit of a bridge to the past because it does those Eventide algorithms that maybe, you just can't live without, like micropitch. That might be the only thing you use it for. I guess that's why they made the micropitch pedal, or the ultra tap pedal, the black hole reverb, to do those singular algorithms in one pedal. So, but there's a little bit of that lore with Eventide. Do you know what I mean? Like a bit of that, because they're an old company, and whereas Fractals, they don't really have those legendary, that legendary algorithm thing associated to the name Fractal. They're a bit more of a jack of all trades, which is fine, and they're great at it. It's just kind of, there's a bit of this that plays into decisions, I think, when people buy things still. I'm going to grab those super chats there right away here. I'm not missing them. Wonder if Grover and Wayne Charvel ever made peace with one another. I don't know that, to be honest. I'm not really sure. That's a good question. I don't know either of them really. I've had very little contact with either of them. So I met them. I don't know that I ever met Wayne, although like I did when he went through the fire and stuff. I was in contact with the family because I was like, they had a GoFundMe and stuff, and I was like reposting that and stuff. So I believe I was talking to his son. I think I've met his son before, but I don't know that I ever met Wayne. Grover I've met, but I don't really know these guys, So yeah. Okay, let me just go down and grab that super chat there. And for the coffee fund, thank you so much. I love the Satchvi tour. Me too. I miss it. Miss all those guys, and I really do. So you rock. Thank you, man. Appreciate the super chat a lot. And I actually have to go buy coffee today. I got to go to the grocery store. So you've helped me out. I hadn't used I've got like a Nespresso at home, like a Verturo machine, which is okay, and I've been using those capsules for like years now and just kind of getting used to that, being lazy about making coffee. Well, I ran out this week and I was in a store that didn't sell those capsules. So I bought some drip coffee. I bought some just good beans, Gelson's this week. And I thought I'll just use my old drip coffee maker. I kind of enjoyed it. It was like different. You ever switch it up at home? Like, if you do pour over, if you make espresso or whatever, then you get a little bored of doing the same thing all the time. You go back to your old drip coffee maker and go, actually, this is pretty good. It's a nice change. So I was doing that this week, grinding the beans and doing I have a pretty good Italian drip coffee maker. It's all right, and it was kind of like the sound it makes. It was like, because I used it for years, like 10 years or something. I was like, oh yeah, I kind of miss that sound in the morning as it's brewing. What an idiot I am. All right. Okay. Anyway, there was a thread on the gear page about how do you deal with the crappy single coil sound of a Strat in the bridge, but somebody mentioned this guitar, which I appreciated. My PT Traditional. This one is severely checked. Look how much checking. I don't know. They really, the aging is extreme on this one. But anyways, yeah, I love that somebody mentioned this guy because it is actually a really, really, really great. I mean, this was the idea, was like come out with a model that kind of addresses the bridge pickup thing without going to, I had a HSS and I thought, well, what about like doing a 3 single coil, but let's not do the typical, Strat pickup in the bridge. Almost nobody's doing a P90 in the bridge. So let's do it. And we can just pop it in the existing humbucker ring, like do a full size P90. That was the idea, in the humbucker ring from the HSS model. And there it is. And there's been a few guys that have kind of gotten on, the forums and said, I got one of these. One guy bought 2. He's like, they're my favorite guitar now. It's all I'm using. He got one and then he got one in Japan. And so I really appreciated that they seem to really be working for people. It's not the same sound as a Strat. It's fatter in the bridge for sure, but it's still distinctly a single coil, and it's just cool. It's just a great, it's a bridge between a humbucker and a single coil, really, is what it is. And it still has, it's got kind of like, because it's noiseless, it's got the best qualities of both, I guess, the character and the, all that articulation, spank and stuff of a single coil, but with like humbucker almost power, but not too much, it's not overpowering. So it's really cool. And the position 2 sounds really good on it. Anyway, there's a little thread on like the gear page this week, and it's cool. Yeah. Oh, the Tone Talk guest. Is this alluding to the fact that I've appeared the most on Tone Talk? It's just because I'm friends with those guys, and I'll be talking to Dave, all the time, and then like he'd be like, "Oh, you want to come on the show tonight?" Sure, So anyway, it's kind of funny. It's an easy kind of thing that happens all the time, but I don't expect anything for free. I did make the video for it, but that was I earned to make these things most of the time. So, Occasionally a piece of gear will come along where somebody will say, we want to hire you to make a video for something. And I'll be like, you know what? Like, can I just have that thing in lieu of, or a partial payment or whatever, what deal I'll make with a company. But there's a few things that where I've done that because I'm like, I got to have this and I got to have it now. It's so good. That happens, So, and not that the Jose's not like that. It's fantastic, but I got a lot of amps. So it's like, got enough amps to play with for now. I would like it, but I can really, the Germino that's right there, the red one, is really close. So it's like, there's not a burning need, I've heard Andy Wood mention you in a Sweetwater video. He said he filled in for you on a Sebastian Bach gig. He filled, yeah. I think I referred Andy to Sebastian because Sebastian asked. I've referred Andy for a few things. So Andy actually did a couple gigs, or at least one gig with Classic Rock Show. That was like a private thing. Which is the band I do over in the UK and Europe and stuff every year. We did one tour here in the US and so we still do some one-offs in the US and stuff all the time. So Andy did one for me because I was somewhere maybe doing Satch Vi at that point. And then Andy, years ago, I believe I did give his name to Sebastian because I've done some things with Sebastian Bach. Long time ago, I met him through Steve Stevens, and we did some shows together at the Iridium in New York City. Did a show at the Viper Room in LA, kind of one-off things. Yeah. So, that was a long time ago, though. No, I'm not sure who's playing with Sebastian. I played with Sebastian recently, like last year. We did I did a one-off with Josh Freeze and Sebastian and Gilby Clark, and who I saw last night, actually. I ran into Gilby briefly last night. Yeah, we did a gig at the Harvard and Stone. Yeah, or sorry, that's not what I meant to say. I've mixed up two different things. I was at Harvard and Stone last night, which is a bar in LA where I ran into Gilby just for a second and his wife. But we did a gig in Vegas is what I meant to say. That was like a corporate one-off thing. Anyways, whatever. I'm mixing up stories. Doesn't matter. None of this is interesting. But yeah, Sebastian sang at that gig in Vegas that I did last year with Josh and Gilby. And it was really fun. Just kind of a one-off thing. This is a great question. Difference between PT100 and Peter Frampton 100. The Frampton 100 is much sort of it's going to be a little more chilled out, a little less, fatter front end. They do look really similar, just in the same way that old ODs looked similar. I mean, an OD 100 Classic or, an OD 100 SC, they were very different amps, but or the Classic Plus, but they all kind of shared a similar look. So the Frampton one I think sounds really good. It's going to be much more if you're into kind of more old school super bass, but with some mods, that Frampton kind of lower gain, really nice though. Like it's got a great thing that's distinct from the PT100. If you veer towards his tones, a little smoother, Marshall, but a little more laid back and a little less like Van Halen or, modded 800, a little more like, because Peter's amps for a long time, I think one of his amps was kind of wasn't real high gain or anything. It was like a super bass that Jose had modded. So kind of more gain than, but super bass spec, maybe the EQ. I'm not sure what John's done with the EQ on the Frampton amp. The Sir model, but like whether it's sort of more that bass spec Marshall EQ or not, I'm not really sure. But it just has a really, really nice sort of more laid back, smooth gain sound. Because Peter doesn't play a ton of gain on the amp. He's got a bit of drive happening on the amp, and then I think he uses an overdrive, like maybe a Klon or something like that for solos. So it's just, the PT100 is going to be a bit more optimized modded 800 hard rock, rock into hard rock, whereas the Frampton one's going to be a little more chilled out 70s, fatter, a little darker front end, and both are great. I think really nice. Yeah. Arthur says I also need to get AC30 type of thing. Yeah, I love an AC30. It's a different thing. It's got its own thing, and it's a very cool. It's not the same as a Marshall, or still 0-0 in the football. Giving you an update. Charvel buddy didn't get the spiff. I just rolled past him for calling my S500 a wannabe San Dimas, and then I teased him about his Metal Zone pedal when I smoked it to myself. Cool. Sounds like you're having a good Sunday. Pete, if you could tour an 80s monster rig, what would it look like? That's a great question. I don't know that I would these days, because there's other ways to do things. But an 80s monster rig, it would probably be old school Marshalls into an amp switcher, and loaded down, and then going into effects at a power amp, with a mixer, something like that, which I kind of do now, but I'm doing it more with like modern amps with channel switching and using modern effects to cut down on the number of things in the rig. Yeah. Let's grab these super chats. Here's one here from David. Any recommendations for a single humbucker with Floyd and a maple neck other than EVH? Are Iconic's decent? Are you talking about Iconic guitars? Or are we talking about... Oh, you're not asking about a pickup. You're actually asking about a guitar. Single humbucker with a Floyd and a maple neck. Maple fingerboard. Yeah, I mean, like, you've basically got Charvel, Sir. I mean, you can custom spec a Sir. They make some beautiful ones. As a matter of fact, there's, I don't want to spill the beans, but there's something coming that I've got. It's basically exactly what you're asking about. But it'll be a ways off, another 6 months. But very cool. So maybe you want to wait. If you can wait a few months, wait, and I'll have something for you that's really neat. But yeah, if you're looking for like something now, definitely. I mean, we're kind of talking about Charvel, I think. Kramer has some stuff, but they're not maple, I don't think. The boards, they look really nice, I gotta say. What the Kramers, the kind of this stuff they've been putting out, I don't know if they're exactly what the quality's like and stuff like that, but they've upped their game. Social media and the pictures they're taking and stuff, and the guitars look nice anyway, so I guess I'm getting sucked in by that. Iconic, I don't really know much about those guys. I've met them. I think they're down around San Diego somewhere. And you've still got, what else? I mean, I think there's like Lux Tone and Chub Tone and all those different brands. I guess, I don't know if Friedman's doing any that are single pickup, but that'd be something to look at. Maybe he is. I mean, isn't Tracy Gunn's guitar like that? Isn't it just one pickup and it's a maple neck? Anyway, there's some options there. So look at all those, and then consider, my favorite guitar company, Sir, specking out something or looking. If you look on the Music Zoo or something, or one of those sites, do they sell Sir? I think they do. You might find, let me see if I can find a photo. Just put a second into this and see how good my image search is here. If I search for this one, there's a photo I took. Yep, there it is. It's pretty good, Apple. Okay, I've got the football on here, so see if you can kind of. But look how sexy this thing is, right? I mean, that's the simplest guitar. It's just a Sir Classic, Goto Bridge, maple neck. Look how cool that looks, right? It's just beautiful. So that's an option. You could. That's a Sir That's a photo I took of their Instagram when I saw that guitar pop up that obviously a dealer had spec'd. And I just think that thing looks beautiful. So this kind of inspired a whole thing, actually. So that's what's coming from me. But it'll be different than that a little bit, but more to the story and more to come. But anyways, yeah, Sir does do them, and they're pretty damn cool. What else we got here? Let's see. Chase Bliss started shipping a month ago. First batch orders will be out before mid-August. So I guess that's a good time for me to get this video done. So I should have it out by end of the week. Yeah. Have you got the 53 here at the moment? You know what? I don't. It's actually not here at the moment. Did you put a new pot in it? Fix the original, put another old one in there. That's a long story that I'll tell later. Yeah, but it's all good now. The electronics are good and it's killing. It sounds great and it's awesome. But yeah, sorry, I don't have it here right now. Yeah. Let's see. What's your favorite Sammy era album and song? That's a really good question. There's a number of good ones, and when I go back and I revisit, there's also a bunch of stuff that could warrant more listening that I haven't listened to in a long time. Like, for instance, the OU812 album is kind of the one that gets not like I think everybody appreciates it, but they talk about it the least for some reason. It's always 5150 or the FUCK album or sometimes Balance, but it seems like those are the two that maybe because they had the biggest hits. I don't know. Like, Why Can't This Be Love and Summer Nights and those, you hear those songs, and then like Run Around and Pound Cake are the ones like those are kind of like the big Sammy era. Finish What You Started, but that's not typically Van Halen. It's kind of they were goofing off playing some country or something off OU812, and then it really didn't have other hits on it that of course Right Now was a really big song, and that was on the FUCK album, right? So you don't really see Balance was kind of that. I didn't really get into that record. It's like interesting. By then I was doing different things, and it wasn't that, I don't know. It was just so far away, maybe, that album, from what Van Halen was. It wasn't fun at that point. It didn't seem like they were having fun then. Maybe, right? I mean, everybody says it's a kind of a dark record or whatever, and that was certainly, the Sammy's last, it seemed like a weird period and all that. But it had really, like, the party fun Van Halen, like, musical virtuosity that was dressed up as a big party. Like, it kind of lost that thing by then for whatever reason on that record. So I gotta say my favorite albums are probably 5150 and the Carnal Knowledge album. And favorite songs, I really still like. I think Runaround's a really fun tune. Like, it's a really good song. And probably Pound Cake was just fun. It had that fun element, that was like part of Van Halen. It felt like the summertime, and it was also kind of interesting because by then it was already Nirvana was happening and Soundgarden and stuff, and there was that shift happening, but that record still broke through and became like a really big record. So it was like also kind of carrying the torch for like old school, a little bit of 80s rock. Right? Isn't that interesting about the Carnal Knowledge album? It kind of like was a bridge a little bit. We were talking about this the other day, the bands from the 80s that managed to make it through grunge somewhat unscathed. I mean, Van Halen, because of their low output after the early 90s, they still managed to come out unscathed, but they sort of like almost, I don't know, it was almost like by default because they went away for so long, then they came back, and that was exciting. Whenever they would come back, it was like, oh, what are they doing now? Is Dave back? Or because there was years that would pass with no activity. But yeah, the ones that kind of made it through were Bon Jovi and Def Leppard and Van Halen, and Motley sort of faltered for a bit, but then made it out back again on the other side, right? But and we're able to. I'm talking about bands that could still play arenas, So Van Halen was one of those, and maybe the timing of that For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge album was really good because it was a really good sounding record. That's the other thing, the Andy Johns factor. That's the one thing that really separates that record from every other Van Halen album. Like, it would have been really interesting to hear Andy do more work with them, maybe with Dave. In that era, would have been interesting. Or next, like what if Dave had come back in '96? They did those 2 tracks, which were really cool with what was his name, with Glenn Ballard. But what if it had been Andy Johns, and they had actually made a record, like around '96? That would have been pretty cool. Because Andy, everybody, I mean, Satriani, Joe, Eddie. I think when people talk about Andy, they talk about him with this reverence, like he was this force of nature in the studio that was kind of like this, like the elder statesman English guy he was kind of wild and kind of crazy, and but he'd just be like, here's the way we're going to do this. And they'd be like, really? He'd be like, yeah, don't worry about it. And that's the way Joe talks about him, like the way he gets sounds and things. And it would just be amazing. Like, it would just work. And because, of course, yeah, he worked with them on some stuff. So anyways, really cool. Yeah. What else there? Metal Prometheus. You're my inspiration. Your name is inspiring. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. I should grab some super chats. Who made the pickups for those Japanese Charvels? They were Jackson pickups. I seem to remember, like the J80 or those different, J90C. Maybe they made them themselves, or maybe it was a OEM thing, but I'm not sure. I seem to remember they sounded pretty good though, those Jackson pickups. I always wonder how to say that word. Is it Chemex? Chemex? If you want to make the best coffee ever, my cousin's a chef and turned me on to it. They're pretty cool. Yeah, I know it's good stuff. I should try that. Yeah. Espresso is 60%, 80% grinder and 20% machine. Get a Bambino and a DF54 grinder. Cost about $400 total. I have a really good grinder, I think, and it seemed to actually, it's not that probably, but it's really good. Multiple different settings that are very specific and stuff like that. Yeah. That red guitar, sick. I'd change the white pickguard. Anything but white. I like it. I mean, white for me is the classic. It's a 60s Fender thing, Would it look cool with a black pickguard? Probably. But I'm cool with this one, man. It's actually looks really, really white on the screen. If you there, maybe not so much now. It's parchment, or it's got a little bit of a aged, a little yellowy, greeny thing to it in person here. That's not so white. But if you don't like white, you don't like white. I like white. See the blue one that's back there too. Same. I love the old. It's just, to each his own. I'm not a pearloid guy at all, other than the black pearl that I've got on some of my Inca Silver guitars. That I really think looks cool. But like a white pearl, I hate that look. Genuinely hate. Yeah, it looks silly to me. But some people might love it. What else? You and Al Estrada are saving rock guitar. Oh, come on now. There's some others out there too, but thank you. Appreciate that. Al's great. Phil X, of course. Some great guitar players out, I think, that are kicking ass. I've been practicing actually the last couple of days, sitting down and learning some stuff. Been working on some John Sykes stuff. He's mind-blowing. He's just so fiery, his phrasing is freaking vibrato and everything. I'm just trying to get some more control, and so every morning I've been working on a little bit of John Sykes stuff for the last few days. I'm gonna try and keep it up. I want to practice some guitar with a little more intention kind of like I do Japanese every day. I've been working on Japanese every day. I'm like, well, if I can do this every day, maybe I should just, if I could do that on guitar every day too, a little more focused, just trying to apply it a bit more. So I'm still trying, man. Still learning. Snacks. No Taco Bell. Thanks, Suzanne. Appreciate that. I never do Taco Bell. I haven't really eaten fast food in like going on, I mean, it's, 15 years at least that I've really done any fast food. Like I could count on one hand the number of times I've been to a fast food restaurant in the last 15 years. So in Ireland, I cheated and I went to, this is a little known fact, but it's kind of interesting. In Ireland, there's a restaurant chain that won the legal right somehow, and I don't know the story behind this. If anybody's in Dublin, you know what I'm talking about. The right to use Big Mac, and it's not McDonald's. It's another fast food place in Ireland. So they make a big deal about it because they're legally able to make a hamburger called a Big Mac. So I had to have one because it's like we were there and it was really good, I have to say. I did do that. That was 3 years ago. I don't know how. I'd love to know the more details on how that shakes down. But is the new PT50 going to be like more like the PT100 or more like the PT15 IR? I would say, well, it's got features of both. Cosmetically more like the PT15 IR, but still different. Although it looks like it's in the same family. Yeah, but more like that. And but sound-wise, you're going to be able to do things that, that we've never. What's the game? Zeros. Oh no, what is it? Somebody scored. Didn't they? Sorry, my eyes are so bad. Oh no, 0-0. Sorry. I mean, that's how bad my eyes are. That's how rumors get started. I thought it looked like somebody scored. I couldn't see the text. Okay, so anyway, sound-wise, just a ton of voicing and the switchability. Like you're going to be able to do so much with it that it's going to be. When I look at it and I see what we're doing and what we've come up with, it's actually going to be like for a person that is marginally into, like with a cool rig with maybe a switcher and stuff like that, you're going to be able to get a ton of things happening in a simple way that's pretty ingenious. So it's going to be really cool. Yeah, that's all I can say. It's much more versatile than either the PT100 or the PT15 while retaining a lot of the features. And it's not really any more complicated. In some ways, it's actually easier, I think. So we're really trying to make it, I put a lot of thought into this, like this amp, and a lot of effort coming from Kevin and a lot of effort coming from John. So like he sent me an update today on something that we were talking about on Friday. He had to put a couple hours into, the guys at SUR, they do a lot of this work in computer programs first. So like the layout of everything, circuit boards, panels, where everything is all done virtually. So that when you find like all that work and layout and everything is all, and I'm talking, it's like a 3D render where you can take an amp and you can pick it up and move it around, look on the inside and turn it around, look at every single angle of it virtually. It's really amazing. I don't know these programs that they use and stuff and how they do them, and it's way above my head, but everything is laid out and it's like those guys have I'm just an idea guy and I ask for things and then they implement them, and it's pretty amazing to see how they do it. I got to give them credit. They work really, really, really hard on it. And then recently we started working closer together, like maybe 2 months ago, started having weekly meetings, updates, which has been really great, I think, because it's like we were able to like streamline things, get rid of things we don't need, add things we do, talk it out amongst ourselves. We always come to a consensus, and it seems like really actually beneficial towards the thing speeding along. But the goal is NAMM, so that we'll be able to show you. So, but it's very exciting. I'm feeling really good about it. Yeah, it's going to be worth the wait. In the market for a combo, I've settled on Tone King Imperial Mark II. Nice amps. I've been playing my electric guitars acoustically for the past year and it ain't the same. Yeah, you're going to have fun then. That's great. Thanks for the super chat as well, by the way. Yeah, I think they're a really nice amp. I mean, that you know, the way that they let me take a look at it actually. Just take a little look here. Tone King Imperial Mark II. 112-inch, 20 watts. Yeah. So I'm pretty familiar with the preamp on it just because it's really similar to the well, the archetype. I've used that, as well as the neural DSP, as well as the preamp, you know, form, like the one that's like the IRX. So, and they're really good sound, really versatile. The different sounds you can get out of them and stuff, you know, for if you want a great clean sound, and then, you know, good solid amp for sure, you know. I think really good. Yeah, lead channel, rhythm channel. Yeah, it looks like it's laid out really similar to the, like, I haven't played this particular, but I played the preamp, so I figured, like, I kind of know what it sounds like. So, yeah. Josh Fries and Gilby with you and Sebastian is in fact interesting. Sebastian still sounds great. One of the only old school vocalists still. Yeah, he's awesome, and he's a lot of fun too. He's one of, you know, he's OG. He's like one of those dudes that, you know, made it out, and he's still doing it, and he's a great character. You know, that's all I can say. I've had fun with Sebastian. He's cool. It's always nice to see him now too and stuff, because it was going back 15 years or something. That was the first time I gigged with him. He's still out there doing it. He's a positive guy. He's a good person. You know, he's a you know, I think. I mean, obviously he's gone through ups and downs like everybody and stuff, but I really, at the end of the day, I think he's a good cat. So, Gilby's a really nice guy too. Actually, he's a nice person. Yeah. Nice if you could get Peter Frampton back on the show, or maybe you and he on Tone Talk. That'd be really nice. Yeah. A lot to talk about since the last time, for sure. Peter's new album's really good. I like the songs, and if you haven't checked it out, give it a listen. Really good. A friend of mine saw Peter live several years back and got a picture of his pedal board. He had quite a bit going on. He does, yeah. Yeah, he's generally got a Klon. He's generally got a fuzz. You know, a bunch of different stuff. Which 212 are you using? I switched to a 76 Marshall straight for a session, but I think the 212 sounded better. 212 can sound really good, you know, because they're a little more focused and a little less, you know, sometimes straight cabs are great. I'm not convinced they're right for absolutely everything. I think sometimes angled cabs, you know, they're a little tighter, a little less lows. They can be a little less boomy or washy. And a 212 is like that too. So my 212s, I think, are really good cabinets. The PT 212s from Sir. It's a little oversized, and they've got the H75 creambacks in them. They're really nice. So, oh, sorry, you weren't asking me. You were asking Ian. Anyway, good talk. Good talk. Heard a video of the PF100 and the clean channel blew me away. I hope to see the PT. Yeah, the PT really does have the same clean. I mean, it's basically the same. John would be able to tell you if you made any changes, but that clean channel across different SIRs was always very, very, very similar. Like the different ODs and everything, the clean didn't really vary. It's a great Fender. That's what's going on. It's an optimized, really nice Fender mid-60s, you know, with a little bit more voicing options and stuff. But yeah, basically, if you get a PT100, you've got that same clean sound. It's a terrific clean channel. I'm spoiled by it. I'm so used to it. But if I'd make a pedal video in here, like a drive video or something, that's what I'm always plugging into, because it's like a great clean platform for pedals. Just a great basic clean sound. In the mic video I did recently, I actually used the clean channel, that Roswell mic video. I used the clean channel, but with the boost on, I think, in that, which is a good sound too. Just much more like a, I think, 66 bassman with the volume on like 7 or something, making some grind. Yeah. What's your thought on the Jimmy Page Super Dragon amps? Dweezil Zappa did an excellent demo. That's cool. I got to watch that. I haven't seen it. I heard one. A friend of mine has one, actually. Brian Kehoe. It sounded really good, I thought. Really cool sounding. Yeah, a combo. Great tube amp. They were talking about the 212s, V30 in an open back carbon 212, and then 12H30 in a seismic closed back. Open back really works with the V30. Cool. 9 Record says, I own PT15. The clean is brilliant. Sounds like a Princeton, dare I say, maybe better. Yeah, it's a Fender derived with a little bit of Dumble magic going on. That's what's going on in the PT15. It's a really, really good clean channel. I'm not sure if you're talking about the PT100 here, but it's not the same as a PT100. Although there's some, they can sound very similar, but the circuit's actually a little different than a PT100. Yeah. Regarding Peter Frampton, the last time he did these shows with you guys, sounded like he was ramping down. He's really stepped up. Yeah, he's doing great. I think it sounds like, and he's very inspiring. Peter's a really positive guy. He's faced with this, tough physical challenges and stuff, and he does it with a smile and just goes, "Well, that's life, and I'm a lucky guy, and I've been fortunate, and I'm happy to be here." And he'll crack a joke, and that's Peter. He's lovely. He's different people deal with adversity like that in different ways, but he's terrific. Really adore him, actually. He's a really super nice guy. Really, really good person. Nothing but good things to say about Mr. Frampton. So, yeah. What else? Let's see. Just looking through the. We're talking. I'm back in the chataways here, but this is talking about single pickup shredders, maple necks. Dave has single pickup guitars. Iconic are great. There's superb parts companies out there. My main guitar is a Park Lane neck, Squire body, all high end hardware. I mean, yeah, it's like that's kind of true too. It's like the vibe of the thing is Van Halen. It's kind of what we started talking about. We're talking about Charvel. After all, Eddie Van Halen's main guitar was a second parts, guitar made out of, what was the early days of, Lynn Ellsworth neck, right? And the Charvel body that was like $70 or something. And, all that stuff. So, yeah. Tracy has his diver down guitar with a maple neck and one pickup. Yeah, that's what I thought. He's using one, right? So that's another option, you can look at. When you got your EVH Frank, did you have to do much to get it to play right? No, not really. Actually, I don't know that I did much of anything. I might have had to shim the neck. I can't really remember. I think I put a shim in it, but it's here. But those guitars are pretty good, man. Like that's the other thing. It's just the EVHs with the single pickups or whatever. They're good basic. They kind of capture that vibe pretty well. Like the wide flat board, big frets, Floyd Rose. Like if you can't do it on one of those, then it's a little bit of a polarizing thing having the basswood body, I guess. It's like it's not really what Eddie used. I feel like it would be cool if maybe not ash, but if they at least made one that was like alder or poplar, so it was like the 5150. I think that would be cool. But because basswood is a sound to me. Anybody that says that wood doesn't affect sound is like, listen to like a hard ash guitar compared to a hard ash or hard maple heavy guitar compared to a basswood body. So it's totally different. And people, wood doesn't make any difference. Like basswood's going to sound that it's nice, but it's a certain thing, it's not snappy. It's warm and a little squishier, warm and round, and then the ash guitar's freaking bright, man. Like a heavy ash is snap, attack, bright, fast. It's a different thing than it's just, I don't know, crazy. So it's one thing about the EVH guitars that I always think is a little because it's not exactly right, you know. There's one right there, the 78 style. It's bitchin', like totally cool. But because of the body, it's never going to be quite that sound, you know. I don't think, you know, it's a good sound. Not that it don't sound good, but you know, it's just different. So, what else? There's a fan of balance. Arthur likes it. Hey, you know, if you grew up with it, maybe it was that certain age you were when it came out or something, and or you heard it and it bonded with it. I was just kind of in a weird phase of not. I wasn't even really listening to much rock music then, like around 95, 96. I was more into singer-songwriter stuff. I was doing this acoustic duo project, working on a pop band too, but like I was kind of out of the heavy guitar, any kind of solos, wasn't really doing it. So when that album came out, there's a new Van Halen album. I didn't really even listen to it. I'm almost ashamed to say that because I was such a huge, but I'm sure there's some people that went through the 80s and then the 90s and can relate to what I'm saying. I was a little tuned out on stuff then, and just kind of, I don't know if it was disillusioned or I just needed a break from rock for a minute. Fair enough to say, you know, and I was enjoying some other styles of music. And then it kind of all came roaring back sometime around the late 90s into the early 2000s. My interest changed, you know, around then. And of course I got in 40 Foot Echo, which was like a modern rock band or whatever. And that had its own thing going on. I was playing that. And so I was writing in that style and playing in that style, touring, playing loud amps again and all that business. Yeah. Thinking of ditching pedal effects for all in one unit, like a VP4 and 4 cable with old SLO with upgraded loop. Worried about ADD and tone loss. I wouldn't worry about it. I was just watching the Butch Walker rig rundown today, where he's doing the same thing James from Classic Rock Show is kind of doing, actually, with a loaded down amp, his signature divided by 13, inserted as a block in an Axe effects. So he's using Axe effects for all his effects, post and pre. You can put it anywhere in the chain, the amp. And then he's going out into a power amp, some cabs on stage, and running IRs to the house. I'm sort of thinking of doing a rig like that too. Next tour, like when I go out next year, Classic Rock Show, I'm thinking of doing it with Quad Cortex. You know, use a Quad Cortex 4 cable like that. All my effects, switching, everything done. And a big part of it is, and who knows, maybe I would use a VP4 too on that board and insert it in an effect loop on the quad, and then I can use it for specific things, you know, on the Quad Cortex. That could be a really cool rig, like quad with a VP4, and then you got the best of both worlds of kind of fractal and everything. But I wouldn't worry about it. Like the AD conversion is so good now and fast, and converters are down to, you know, sub 2 milliseconds is more like a millisecond, and the versatility, the ability to get in an editor, and when you've got a rig like this, you know, the ability to get in an editor and make all your sounds like so quickly and everything, and then switch, you know, using, like, I don't know if I've got a VP4 right here at my feet. I'm not sure if it's got control switching on it or not. I can't remember. Let me just take a look. It's MIDI. Maybe it's not got control jack kind of switching, like to channel switch your amp, but you can obviously do that with add a piece of gear, and you can make that happen. It's MIDI, so you could use something like the Sir Mini MIDI box, come out of this and go into that, send a MIDI message, and it'll send a TRS to or whatever, you know, foot switch or TS, you know, whatever the foot switch is on an SLO to switch the channels. You could make that happen easily. Yeah, the ability to have a laptop or whatever and just get in there and make all your effect sounds and just change, it's just beautiful, you know. It's so easy, and then it's just reliable. I don't know, there's just a bunch of things about it that are cool. So I might give it a go just next year. You know, my hope is that I would have next year a PT50 running into the IR load, you know, for that kind of loaded down reamp stereo rig, just one head, and yeah, cabs on stage for the, you know, volume, little stage volume and feedback and stuff, but then IR is running to the house. So I think that's my plan. So I guess I'm with you here, Stephen. I'm thinking of doing the same thing, and I wouldn't worry about the you know, like I say, James has been doing it with James Cole's been doing it with a Marshall with Classic Rock Show for a couple of years now. I just saw Butch is doing it with the Fractal. A lot of people are kind of going that route. There's a ton of advantages. So yeah. A Cerner Sparkle Red with FU Bridge and SSH would surely be something I'd be interested in. Let's go. I have that one right here. I'll get off my butt and show it to you. There it is. Come on. It's Christmas time in heaven. All the angels are here. Look at that thing. This is a really, really good guitar. I love this guitar. It's really awesome. That's right. I pulled the block off this one. Forgot about that. My black one is still blocked, I think. This one I've got it set to go up and down, so I can't really use the detuner on it, but I set it that way. Good times, good times. What else? What else? What else? ESP and LTD also have cool single pickup guitars. I ordered a single pickup Kiesel last year. See, I guess there's lots of them out there. Yeah. Yeah. Balance is dark and heavy. Ed's tone was just amazing. I think on that record he was actually recording a wet dry wet setup. Like I think he had 3 cabs running, which he hadn't done on any other record. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I heard. You know, that he actually had the full like live rig running for that, but which was, you know, kind of like simulating, you know, the studio as opposed to, you know, sending out to the you know, H3000 and all that via a recording console. Instead, I think he was doing it like through the cabs and stuff. So I think that's the balance tone. I'd have to ask on that just to make sure, but that's my, I think that's correct. Balance is Wolf's fave. That's interesting. I mean, it kind of makes sense when, you know, he's younger. Obviously, he was a kid then. He was hearing it right when he was, you know, and he was there for the recording probably, you know, hanging out when it was all being done. And so the genesis of the songs and everything makes sense. He's got a connection to it. It's, you know, I think there's really, 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 really something to being like between the ages of 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and the music you hear at that point. There's something that happens to us all, you know, at that point when we're kids. And, you know, it's like Andy Wood has a real affinity for the Sammy era stuff. That's kind of his jam. He loves the Dave stuff too, I think, but I think he's like a Sammy era real fan. You see some of those guys, and Andy is of that age where he's about 10 years younger than I am, I think, you know, something like that. So it kind of, that makes sense that, you know, and then Wolf makes sense, right? He's of the age where Balance would be the record that, of course, he was there because he's the son. So he was in the house. Well, you know, he's probably just, that's hard to discount that factor, right? Gonna have a big impact on you if you were around. Yeah. Balance is my favorite Sammy era. I have to say, probably for me, I mean, 5150 is a great, you know, I'll tell you this much. I remember falling asleep one night. We'd all heard that Sammy Hagar was going to sing with Van Halen. That was a thing, but it, you know, hadn't come out yet or anything. One night, I remember waking up in the morning to go to school and going, I had a dream that I heard new Van Halen last night. And the reality was I'd left the radio on and it came on as I was falling asleep, you know. And I had this memory of it when I woke up, like, oh, I had a dream, I think, that I heard new Van Halen. That's crazy. But it wasn't like I had. But then it came on later that day or something, and I heard it. I went, oh my God, I did hear it. I heard it in my sleep or while I was falling asleep. I just didn't remember. You know, those kind of imprints on me when I was probably like in, I don't know, how old was I then? 9th grade or something? 8th grade when that came out? 9th grade, 10th grade? Something like that. So, 86. Yeah, it's probably 9th grade. So, yeah. So, it was right in that magic age of hearing the music and it imprinting on me. So that's, those records, I mean, that 5150 record. And, that big part of it was the Live Without a Net movie too, because it seemed like it was so much fun. I was going to arena shows. I had so much fun going to arena shows then as a kid, and then that concert really captured that fun vibe of, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, that's the Van Halen. They managed to bridge that gap with a new singer, and it looked like they were still having a great time, and like it was just the most fun in the world. And that was a big part of Van Halen to me. So maybe that's why later, like when it got a little more serious or whatever, it was like a different thing, and I just didn't connect with it as much because I'd remembered the fun thing. I saw them on the 84 tour. I mean, it was like wild, I mean, it was just so much fun. And then and Dave was a big part of that, the ringleader and the party of it all and everything, and the Eat 'em and Smile tour. I saw 84 tour and Eat 'em and Smile tour, a year apart or whatever it was, 85, 86. Saw those two shows. That's my memory of that fun stuff, So it was very different by the mid 90s. And music in general was going through a dark, grunge had happened and everything was darker, dirtier, and it was a little more serious, and everything was like, and also something we got to remember, that is big factor too, was the kind of like sex, drugs, rock and roll, like, okay, I guess there was drugs in the 90s, but the sex that got pulled out of the 90s a little bit. Like, there wasn't this, like, that was a big part of it, like the girls and like the that whole thing. And like, as you're a teenage kid, like full of testosterone or whatever, there was that whole element of it too, of like a Van Halen show, and of like the and it was just like that. And then that was kind of gone in the 90s. That wasn't a thing anymore, which probably needed to happen. It was like something that was like an effective grunge, and kind of a little bit more like, it was more serious and more like, not just about partying, getting laid or whatever. Like, was the vibe in that was the kind of how it was, music was dressed up, or the Sunset Strip stuff or whatever. And certainly Van Halen was like big, it was a party. That was the thing. So that's the element where, when you think about the Balance era and stuff like that, it seemed like it was pretty gone. I mean, okay, there was the song Amsterdam, I guess, that kind of alluded to, party crazy on Balance, but a lot of it was darker, more serious. I mean, even going back to Right Now and stuff, it was like a darker, more serious side of Van Halen, which is cool. Nothing wrong with that, but it was just different than that fun element that, kind of like the what I'm talking about. And then I remember like that just being absent from music in the 90s. That element, like the, sort of sex element in rock and roll, was gone just in the 90s. It just was like, we forget about it. So when you think about it, I mean, it really was, until Monster Magnet came along around 98 or 99 and made a video where it was like, and then it kind of took maybe it was like, I mean, I'm getting out of the weeds here a little bit, but maybe it was like hip hop and stuff that kind of brought it back. And rap and stuff that kind of brought that element back into music in a way, in the, late 90s, early 2000s, where it was like real prominent, and it was just different the way that it was done then. But yeah, I think that it's an interesting factor too, that kind of, when I just don't know if Van Halen worked as well as a serious, at the end of the day, the beauty of Van Halen to me, and when I always laugh when people are like I saw somebody, probably a what do they call it, like a, just a baiting post on Threads or whatever, because there's so much of that crap on there where it's just designed to get you mad. But somebody put up a post that said Eddie Van Halen is like, you know, a terrible musician or something, and you know, something like that. And I was like, God, man, like this is so dumb. Like, you know, even for people to say that, even if they're just trying to, you know, clickbait and get people mad, it's so stupid just as a thing to say, you know, because the guy was so musical and he had so much, you know, musical genius that came out. But the fun thing about Van Halen, and I've always said this, was like that element, like the, you know, the musical intricacy and fusion of, you know, like he was just so, you know, the stuff he was doing, the first 2 minutes of little guitars or whatever, right? With this, you know, the nylon string guitar intro, and then everything that comes in after that before Dave sings, all that genius stuff. And it was still so fun and just sounded like the summertime, and you had the top down, but it was pretty sophisticated music too, right? So to be able to do all that and then dress it all up with, you know, like little guitars, like Dave's lyrics and everything, make it sound so much fun. Like the way that Dave was a genius at that stuff. He really was. He was the best back in the day at, he could pull it all together in a way that was like, you know, made it really, really, really fun. Yeah, and not just muso, you know. And that was Van Halen to me, you know. That was the magic of it. Yeah. So if that makes sense, that's what maybe with balance and stuff, it just wasn't. It's still good, you know, but it's just not the same. Yeah. I'm way back in the chat here, so I should move down a little bit. But Badlands was another one. I wish they stayed around. When I first moved to LA, Ray was living in the apartment I was in. I mentioned it, I've probably mentioned this on the show, but I was living in the Oakwood, kind of on the border of Burbank and Hollywood in the hills when I first went to MI. And there was a number of musicians living there then. Nirvana moved in there to make Nevermind right after I moved out. I moved to Hollywood proper. And like right after that is when Nirvana moved in there and lived there while they were making Nevermind into the same complex. So it was a kind of a corporate housing short term, like you could rent monthly or you could sign a 6-month or a year lease in this place. You could rent furnished, like a great big apartment building where, you know, the studios and would put up people that were in town working on television. And that's where I first lived when I came to LA. So yeah, that's where Vito Bratta was living, making a record, one building over from me. And Ray was another guy. And I would go out by the swimming pool, you know, on, you know, weekends off from school or whatever, and there's Ray Gillen, you know, they're making a Badlands record, I guess. So yeah, they were really good. Yeah, really, really cool. But we were going through the shift then too, you know. Right then is when grunge hit and stuff like that, so everything changed. Yeah, been trying to save for PT Sir. I've played Friends. I love it. Life always gets in the way. I know it's life. It's hard these days for folks with, right? I mean, it's just like everybody dealing with, man, every time I go to the grocery store or every time I go out and, you know, the norm of the price of things changing. You guys know what I'm talking about. I mean, it's like you know, go have a cocktail somewhere, you know, it's $18 no matter where you go. Like maybe it's 20, right? You know, it's like, damn, when did everything become like, if you go have a margarita somewhere, it's $18, you know, you go to get a sandwich and it's, you know, I mean, I think today I go to Snobby Coffee and it's $7.50 for a friggin' oat milk latte, you know, but it's like, and then I got a bread toast thing. And that was, you know, I think it was like, you know, it's $24 by the time I leave a little tip on top or whatever. And it's like, it's really hard, I think, for everybody, right? It's like, it doesn't matter who you are. It's like, wow, you really got to make a lot of money just to get by. You know, because I don't think our brains have maybe sometimes caught up to, like, it's like, even if you're doing well, like you have a good job and you're, you know, things are going good and stuff like that. And you're like, yeah, look I'm clearing this much every year. Like things are still okay. But then sometimes you're like, well, how come I'm not left with more every month? And it is that, like, us catching up to the fact that, like, everything just costs so much more. And it's kind of the norm. And nobody wants to move backwards because it's capitalism. So it's like, once you've upped the price, nobody wants to back it down to, like, yeah, we could probably afford to charge $5.50 for that latte instead of, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, once the yeah, everybody's like, well, everybody's gotten used to it, so let's just keep the price the same. And I don't know. I don't know. It's not like I have an answer, but certainly that gets, guitar purchases become more difficult and stuff like that when everything's more expensive every day, just daily food and stuff like that. So, yeah. Thanks a lot for your video on the Earthquake Easy Listening. It was and still is the best video reviewing. Oh, cool. Thanks. Appreciate that. That's such a simple pedal. It's just like a one sound amp sim in a box. I'm glad you like it. Interested to hear the PT50. Will it be more vintage voiced or relatively modern? Everything. Sorry, I hit the mic because I got excited. It'll be everything. Yeah, you'll be able to go from true plexi, that gain architecture, the whole 9 yards, all the way through to even more gain than a PT100 has, because we're going to also include an old school tube boost gain, like on top of what the PT has. So the current PT has a MOSFET boost in front that you can use, which is awesome. But it won't have that. It'll have other voicings for boosting and, tube stages. It's basically 3 stages of like, think plexi modded 800, which is basically what a PT100 is. And then another added stage on top of that, but also with multiple voicings for things like, how tight it is or how stringy it is or how fat it is in the front end. Bright voicings, all those things. And it'll all be switchable and recallable and, very, very, very versatile. So how good of a guitarist was Chris Cornell? That's a great question. And thank you for the super chat, Christopher. Appreciate that. I think Chris was, he was really self-deprecating about his own guitar playing, but he really cared about it too. So he was not a lead guitar player. He would tell you that, that wasn't really his thing. I don't think he was really interested in that. He was interested in the guitar as a vehicle for his songs. So if you watch him play, I mean, he did multiple tours, as the only guitar player, playing acoustic, sometimes a little electric. And I believe he really worked hard to get to the place where you see him on those tours, like starting around 2011, the Songbook tour, and then all the way through till when he passed. I mean, through Higher Truth and the different tours that he did where he just played solo acoustic. You can hear his guitar skill improving, so he was very I would say self-deprecating about his guitar playing. He was always he was very humble about it, but I think he was a really good, solid guitar player because he was focused on the things that really, interesting chord voicings, good time. He started as a drummer. We got to keep in mind too. He was the first drummer in Soundgarden. So he, initially, so he always had that too, because he could play decent drums, kind of like Dave Grohl, and then moving to guitar. The core stuff was there and good, and he cared and he worked on it. He was not afraid to work hard, Chris. He was, obviously you don't get to be that level of, he was always curious. So he wanted to work on his guitar playing, and he would practice things until he got them stuff. I don't know that guitar came naturally to him, like from the sense of like he had to work to practice. There was a certain, you can see it in his rhythm style and stuff, a certain stiffness. And I don't mean that in a bad way. He would probably tell you the same thing. You can see it in the way that his right hand works and stuff. And, we all have our like little technical things. Like for me, it's also my right hand, the way that I pick. I've got things that I wish I had probably worked differently. So he had this certain sort of way that he would hit the guitar. Like he wasn't super loose and, like funky or anything like that with his right hand. He had a different kind of thing going on. But you should know that a lot of the rhythm guitars you might assume and Kim would tell you too, I'm sure, a lot of things that you might think are Kim are actually Chris, like on Super Unknown. And he played a lot of that guitar, and he would work it and play it. And he was a if you like me were fortunate enough to hear his studio recordings, like demos or things that he does, he never half-assed anything. Like all of his vocals and all the guitars on anything that he would do, like even demoing things, are so well recorded and well executed, like, so he really worked to get it to, like, he was self-deprecating about it, but that made him kind of his own worst critic, I think. And then he would work to get it to the point where he could do it and where it sounded right to him. And he had excellence, like his taste was impeccable when it came to that stuff. That's my answer to that. Yeah. Do you like Soldano amps? I really do, actually. Yeah. I think they're a unique voice that's super valid. Some people are like, oh, I don't like that sound, or I don't, and I'm like, no, it's just different, but it's really good, kind of in the same way that Mesa's really good. There's certain things that certain amps do that other ones don't. I'm one of those people that appreciates all those different colors. I don't need to have the one. I've got my one home base thing that I love, where it's always like, yeah, there it is. That's just really cool. But then I dabble in these other things and really quite enjoy them too, Which I think would happen with a lot of people with Soldano, Eddie Van Halen, for instance, right? Went and tried, and he goes, oh, this is cool, different. I can do what I do. It's not the same as the Plexi, probably, but fun, different, new, exciting thing, and that's kind of the way I feel when I play through an SLO or something. It's like, oh, that's cool. And then I can hear the things that it won't, that, it doesn't do, that are exactly the same. But I like it, I like what they do. And it's a good, solid workhorse sound that, that I could work with and do gigs with and stuff, It's a really nice amp to have to blend with another amp too, an SLO style sound, like if you double a guitar track or something with a, if I do one side with a PT100 and one side with an SLO, it sounds really good. Like they're cool. And I love that preamp. That's why I have it here. I mean, the X88 IR is a beautiful piece of gear, really, really well executed. I remember getting it to review, and I was like, this is one of those things that I had to keep. I need this around here. I'm actually using it a bit on the video for the big time. And I remember talking to Steve Stevens about it right at the same time, and he was like, he might have even texted me like when I had it to review and said, are you hip to this Soldano preamp? Like, it's awesome. I'm like, yeah, I totally got it as well. Really, really good. So yeah. Are you going to read Kim's book, Kim Thale book? I would love to. Actually, yeah, I should do that. He's a good storyteller. I know that about him. So I haven't actually really thought about getting it, but I should. I've got the Getty book that I still haven't read, maybe I should read that over the next couple of weeks before I go see them. That might be good. I'm going to go see Rush in a couple of weeks. So hope it works out this time. It should. Yeah. Let's see. What's going on in the game? Still no score. Very exciting. Halftime 0-0, and we're back playing again. So I guess it's been a minute that I'm back in the chat here, because I'm pretty sure they're playing again already. Yeah. Okay, what else we got here? Let's see. Moving down in the chat a bit. Being a positive mindset is one of the most important things nowadays. Hi, Jen. What's up? What's up, girl? Yeah, it really is. And it can be difficult, because there's a lot of problems. But yeah. It's no joke, maintaining and mental health is everything. Without that, you don't got anything. Without health, you don't have anything. Without mental health, you don't have anything. It's just part of health. So, yeah, you got to try and stay as healthy as you can, and mentally. I mean, that's the Peter secret right there. I think is that positive outlook and everything, even through his health challenges, really helps him to get through everything. Oh yeah. Have you ever tried a Bogner Uberschall? No. I have not, but I've got the Synergy module here, so front end of it, I've tried and stuff like that. So Bogners I've tried are Ecstasy 101B, or 100B, 101B, I think was mine. The what was that 80 watt one that came out? Goldfinger or something? And what was the other one? 2-channel. You know the one. It was everywhere for a while. Shiva. Yeah. Love watching videos of LA Guns current tour. Band sounds great. Tracy's he's a friend and he's a great guy. And yeah, they do sound great. The neat thing about that band is they kind of are still out doing it and doing it on a good level, when everybody's there and everybody's bringing it and in a good state, and they kind of, they're having fun, and it's nice. It's like, well, that you win, it's like all these years later and stuff, you can still go out and do it, and it's pretty cool. So I still want to buy the black parts caster with the 2nd degree black belt. Build one. Just get a Music Craft neck, or whatever, like get a Frankie kind of neck for it, and an Ash heavy body, and build it. Easy. Yeah. What else? Basswood bodies are the best. I just love it. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice for high gain, right, Jen? I mean, they have a really nice warm tone. I hear it in all my Eddie Van Halen, the Wolfgang and the Axis, or the Eddie Van Halen model I have back there that is Simon's. And then certainly all the the Frankie and that warm basswood thing. It's just such an inherent smoothness to it, and a little soft thing that is always there. It kind of can round out an edgy high gain amp or something. It's pretty cool for what it is. Yeah. I built a VH1 white and black, put an SD Custom 59 hybrid in it. What's an SD Custom 59 hybrid? It's like a coil of each or something. Perfect for early Van Halen. I really think there's something about the vintage style bridge. Vintage style bridge is definitely a thing. Floyd sounds different for sure. Yeah. Love when you play acoustic. Your earlier acoustic videos are so great to watch. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, I love playing acoustic. I'll probably do something on a record, next record, where it's like because I love that idea of doing an acoustic song on every record, at least one, to kind of break it up. It's always fun. So I'll do it again. Yeah. Let's see. I was surprised by a Poplar guitar I had. It sounded fantastic. However, it was quite light. Thin line carbonated tail. Don't know if it was light because of the Poplar being semi-hollow. Oh, probably both. Poplar's kind of it's sort of like alder, I think, weight-wise. I think the 5150 guitar was Poplar, wasn't it? I believe. Yeah. Sex Shvai gig just closed. So what do you have working up schedule-wise? You always seem to be busy. I'm chilling for a minute. I'm actually going to do some clinics in the fall, so I'll announce that. Not yet, but soon. In the U.S. But other than that, I'm trying to just kind of get back into here and make some videos for stuff that, new stuff, as well as things that are lingering from before I left on tour and stuff. I do want to do a video actually on my Satchvai rig before I move on too much from that, because I feel like I want to document it and show you some of the sounds and stuff, like hook it all up, and it would be fairly easy for me to just hook it all up and show you some of the parts and sounds that I was playing on that tour. I remember like one of the sounds, and Steve Vai was like, you should make one of your videos on that. Like, this is worth a video, like this sound, because it's a really good sound. I don't even remember what sound it was, but anyway, I could just kind of go through the set and do a bunch of show the parts and the tones, and then document what I was doing. I think it'd make an interesting rig rundown video. So I want to do that. But anyway, other than that, like things like making videos in here and stuff, I really just feel like I need to get a record done and out, like another record. So work towards that. And other than that, I mean, I've got Classic Rock Show's already announced dates for January, February into March of next year. So there'll be a little touring there. I don't have anything else on the horizon touring wise right now. Just those, that'll be 30 or 40 shows in the very early part of the new year. So yeah, getting a record done, then moving into that, kind of trying to dial it back a little bit. Cause like, I was really out for a long time, like for a year and a half which is not a complaint, but that was just life. And, that can, it just is a thing, where it's just nice to be home sometimes and stuff. It feels really good right now to be like, I'm very aware of this stuff because I've been touring for so long, but dialing my nervous system back to where I'm not always like, where do I got to be? What do I got to do? What's next? What do I got to, to feel like I can sleep in actually, or let's get up and make some coffee and play some guitar and not feel like I have to go somewhere. Like I don't have to, that's like putting it on myself if I'm like at this point, because I don't have a schedule where, it's hard to do. It feels a little weird. And yet I'm trying to do it. And when I manage to do it, it feels really good because I just need a little break for a second, like from that kind of intensity. Because touring it's not like you work all the time. I mean, you've got many hours of the day where you're not, but you are constantly in this flow of like different city, different thing, sound check at this specific time that you really need to be on time for, or gig at this specific time, get picked up, go to the venue. Now go get on stage, play those songs, get out in front of those people, do a really good job. Now dial it back and slow down again. Go get on a bus, sleep like this, rolling around for, get up, going to like every day for like, and you do that about, and just a like suitcase living, like where you look at the bag. I remember looking at my suitcase, like and going, you are going to pack that thing about 80 times coming up. Unpack and pack 80 times. Let's go. 79, 78, 77, I love it. It's great. And it's also that, it's everything all at once. So, so right now I'm just trying to kind of like, when you say you're always busy and on the run, I'm actually trying to dial it back for a minute and just chill my system out. Who knows what else will come next year? I'm hoping there's going to be lots of fun stuff, but we'll see. And then keep in mind, I'm also going to put out my, there's going to be some gear coming next year and stuff. So maybe in conjunction with like a PT amp, and some fun stuff I got planned for guitar and stuff like that. It'd be fun to have some opportunity to maybe go out and do some clinics and stuff like that around those, so thinking about that maybe. Anyway, that's it. Yeah. Need the PT50 hopefully in a narrow head shell. It's going to be as small as possible. We're kind of shooting, I've said this a lot, for like a small box size head. So like a small, think about a Marshall, 50 small box, that size, like the SL67 size amp. And I think we're pretty good for that. I think that's what's happening. So yeah. What acoustic preamp? I got to hit some super chats there. What acoustic preamp for a mix of PRS, piezo, and LR bags, AEG1 acoustic for a handful of songs? DI option, compression and reverb, then on stage monitor via Fishman Loudbox. PRS, piezo. DI option, comp and reverb on stage monitor via Fishman Loudbox. I mean, there's a few different ones. A simple one that I felt pretty good about using was the Carl Martin called the Acoustic Gig. So you could look at that. It's very simple, but it's got compression, EQ, reverb. It's very simple. There's a boost on it and a notch, some different things you can do. It's got XLR out, and it's very kind of analog and simple in its operation. So take a look at that. The other way to go with it is, use a modeler, and then you can do all kinds of things. Like I've used my Quad Cortex and gotten some really nice acoustic sounds, on the Satch Vi tour, for example, using, the Acoustasonic and stuff running into it, the big split stereo thing. And so that's the other thing, you can get in there and do parametric EQs and reverb and compression. You could have a different preset for your PRS and your bags. So that's the two different ways I've gone with it, is either full on model or quad cortex as preamp and effect unit, or the Carl Martin. Those are the two that I've used in the last few years. Yeah, hope that's helpful. Let's see. I'm gonna move down and find those super chats. There's one there. 40 Grit guitars, single hum in your Sparkle Red SSH Alder maple board and FU tone bridge, matching headstock, your signature on the front next to Sir logos. Hopefully, what you're working on. You're pretty damn close. There's some other things about it that are neat, that are special, but yeah, you're pretty close. Yeah, it's actually, this thing that I'm thinking of doing is not a signature guitar, so to speak. It's going to be kind of a custom run. Like, it's not going to be like because I've already got so many signature models in my line. But the fun thing about Sir is that you can come up with ideas like for one-off guitars, or it's like when Andy Wood did his Dan Huff inspired Sir, the purple one, because he's a Dan Huff nut. That's so nerdy and unique. But you could make that. I don't know that they ever did. Sir would probably do it if you asked them to do it, custom spec it out, but go, hey, I want a guitar like Andy's, right? That's kind of what I'm talking about. You can come up with like what if we did this for and we make 50 of them, or something, and do a run of them and sign them or something like that. But that's kind of what I'm working on, something like that. But you're pretty damn close there, man. And there's going to be a neat twist to it. That's all I can say. It's like a cool thing that makes it fun. So, yeah. Thank you for the super chat. I like all the EVH periods. I admit I'm more in the Roth camp due to my age. Yeah, that's what I say. I mean, I kind of, me too. Just, but I like it all. I appreciate it all. Yeah. There's that other super chat there. Sign up for Rock Fantasy Camp with Michael Anthony, Kenny A, Warren D, and Brad Gillis. You're going to love. Okay, so this is something I haven't really announced yet. This is something I am doing, and I haven't. I got to put out a post or something about it. But yeah, so the Rock Fantasy Camp in the fall is another thing that I'm doing. Yeah, Michael Anthony, Kenny Aronoff, Warren DeMartini, Brad Gillis, my bandmate Kenny, of course. And yeah, so I'm one of the counselors. So if you get into it, it's going to be cool. Like, I don't have all the details yet or exactly what we're doing or what my role will be, but because this is the first one I've done, but I'm going to learn more. It's coming up in the fall. It's in November, over 4 days. It's kind of funny because it falls really, really close to when I'm doing some clinics, and I had to kind of move dates around. I don't have much going on right now. Like, I've purposely kind of left a lot of time open, and then you get two things going on. You're like, damn it, there's a conflict there of one day, and it's like out of the rest of the year, it's like, really, these two things had to fall on the same day. But anyways, so God, still no score in this game, eh? Crazy. Wow, good game, I guess. Like, somebody's going to score, and the place is going to blow up. It's going to go crazy. Everybody's going to go nuts. All right. What else? What's the most memorable guitar player? It's funny how the most memorable guitar player are the ones who played on the memorable songs. Playing something cool on a cool song is easier. Well, yeah, but maybe the guitar made the song cooler. Like, what would Boys of Summer be without that simple, right? What's that, 5 notes? Without those 5 notes in the beginning, right? And that probably wasn't there, or what about, great example, because that was laid down last. It was actually the last thing put on the song. It was like a song with just pads I think. And then Andy came in and played that on it. It was like, oh, that changes everything. That lends a whole new hook. Sure, great song, I guess, but I can't even imagine it without that guitar part. So, like I say, we're boys of summer without that cool Mike Campbell, and Henley's kind of, I worked for him, he's kind of an intimidating guy, right? So to come in, Mike's a peer, so, but to come in and have the confidence to just do that, like, what needs to happen here? Right off the top. I guess he co-wrote too, didn't he? Mike Campbell's a co-writer on that, so he didn't just play on an existing track. So that maybe you heard that all the way from the beginning, but yeah. Okay. What else? It's insanity. I can't get out of the grocery store for less than $300. Yeah, when I came back and I did I'm just one guy, and I came back and did my shop where I had to buy everything, like condiments. I needed ketchup and things that you usually have around your fridge for a while, because I had nothing when I got back off tour. So it was a full shop. It was $350. Yeah, for one guy. Okay, $350. And then I'm so bad about, I eat out too much and stuff, and so it's like I ended up wasting a bunch of that. I'll buy things and then I'll look and go, damn, that's been out of date for a week now, I can't eat it. So I always like buy too much when I go to the store. I'm better buying less. But yeah, this fella says, Mineral says, I'm selling gear, man, never really sold much of my gear before. Yeah, I think we're all there. I need to kind of do that too, just from a perspective of, I just have things I'm not using and it's time to clean house. But I feel yeah, it's hard, man. I don't know what the hell the answer is, but got to do something, there's got to be some answer to this constant. You can't just keep making things more expensive, and then expect everybody to keep up. And that's what we're seeing, I think, is people just can't keep up, But that's what happened with, I was talking to about LA, and, LA gets a lot of shit, about being poorly managed and all this kind of stuff. But also, man, it's just a matter of rampant. I truly believe this because I lived through it. It was the rampant capitalism because I lived in Santa Monica and I had a studio there. And Santa Monica is in a tough place right now. Really, it's like the 3rd Street Promenade, big shopping area, walking mall and stuff. It's like heavily unoccupied, and when I lived there, it was great, but there was a shift happening, and I'm part of it because I lived there, and then I now, my studio is not in Santa Monica anymore. Remember when I used to have that other studio, and it was Santa Monica. What happened was they were going to double our rent. And I was going through life changes then and stuff like that too. Went through a big breakup and stuff like that. So now I'm looking for a place to live. And also at the same time, coincidentally, a couple months later, my rent was going to double on my studio. Double, not like it's going up 20%. It's going up 100%. And it was like, why? 100%? Because I was in a commercial building in Santa Monica. My studio was in there, and I was subleasing, from these people, and their rent was doubling. The landlord was doubling everybody's rent in that building. And that's what happened in Santa Monica. And so I left. I was like, well, I can't justify that. So I moved to the Valley, and, at that point, and found a place in the Valley and stuff, like studio that was less expensive than I was paying. So I was I experienced that, that rampant, that's what I'm talking about, rampant capitalism. I'm talking about a landlord doubling rent on a bunch of tenants that are good tenants. I would have stayed in that building. You could have bumped my rent a reasonable amount. I probably would still be there. So I like Santa Monica, but that's what happened in Santa Monica. The rents, oh my God, just for commercial real estate, let alone, housing, through the roof, just bonkers. So people can't afford that at some point, and they leave, or they leave. Businesses get up and go. They go somewhere else, or they shut down. And then everybody goes, oh, the city's mismanaged. That's not why I left, because the city was mismanaged. There's probably some of that going on, other stuff happening and stuff. But it was literally just the rampant march onward of the price of things just getting absolutely out of control. The the basics where it's like I can't live here if my home's going to be looking for a new place to live and having my studio rent double. Like, well, my income didn't, like, what justifies that? So that's the mess that I see in LA, you know. And then you get people that can't afford things and end up, you know, if they lose their job or whatever. Way too many people live paycheck to paycheck and stuff like that. And then when those things happen, what happens? You get a bunch of people that lose everything, you know. So this is a real thing, you know, that like you just can't charge more for everything all the time without paying people more. Right? I think that's pretty basic. I don't know. I'm an idiot, but you know, I'm just a working class musician, but that's what I see. It doesn't make sense. So, yeah. Anyway, enough about that. Problems of the world. We're here to talk about other things. I've always loved the melody line Chris played on Fell on Black Days. Yeah, you mean like the solo? That one. Yeah, he was great at that kind of thing. You know, there wasn't a solo, but it was like a, you know, certainly really cool. But so some super chats there I got to grab again. I'll do that in a minute. If you listen to Cormel's Dental, it's on the deluxe releases. He basically wrote every riff from Super Unknown on. I mean, yeah, he did. That's absolutely true. And Kim would tell you that too. Kim was there, you know, painting. Chris has an amazing thing, man, where like, let me just tell you, like, you know, Soundgarden's going to come out with like the final recordings of, you know, what Chris was working on right before he passed away and stuff. And it's going to blow everybody's mind because honestly, when Chris had an amazing ability to write in a mode for like the Soundgarden sound is so distinct compared to what he was doing on, say, something like Higher Truth, or if he was working on a movie soundtrack. And he had those abilities to shift, but it doesn't sound forced or contrived at all, you know? So I mean, without saying more, I mean, you'll hear what he was doing before he passed away, like right before, and it's gonna freak some people out how good it is, you know, because it's deeply Soundgarden, you know, and it's so you're gonna hear it and you're gonna go, if you like that music, you know, you're just gonna go, oh, like it's gonna pull you back into the 90s. and it's so like good in a way that I don't even think King Animal was, you know. It's shockingly, yeah. So that's all I'll say about that. But I can't wait to hear what they've done, you know, with you know, I've said it before. I don't know that much about, you know, the exact process, but exactly what I was doing at that time was I helped Chris we got him a PT100 and a reactive load, and I set up some Logic templates for him that had channel strips in them with speaker simulation on, because he was new to impulse responses and stuff like that. He was living in New York, in this flat in New York, and a really nice place, but, you know, not a place where you could necessarily record loud guitar. So I set him up with a way to record guitar for this material. And he was loving it, and retract a lot of guitars on like 7 songs that way. So that's what's there. And yeah, you just wait for this stuff. It's really exciting to think that they're going to finish these songs and that it's going to come out, and you'll hear it eventually and hear how it's fascinating, because it's I think most of them were tracked in February of that year. So it's just a couple months before he passed away, you know, that he did all this work, and it's so focused. And anyway, yeah, I can't wait to see I just want the record to come out. So yeah. Okay. I should probably go soon. It's almost 2. Good. Oh, damn, that didn't feel good. I hit my chin really hard on the strap button. We still got no score in this game. That's incredible. Maybe we'll go and watch the end of it in a few minutes here. What acoustic? Oh, I did this one already. Sorry if you sent that twice. You might have sent that twice. That super chat. You didn't need to do that, but I appreciate you. Thank you. Here's one from 40 Great Guitars. Where's the wolf that Ed gave you? It's right there. It's in here. It's like behind the amp rack there. Yeah. So love that guitar. It's great. In my opinion, your signature model is the nicest signature out there now. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I love to think that there's the different versions. I mean, these two are very different, this one and the one that's on the chair right there, but something for everybody. Because I got to live in different worlds sometimes, I mean, yeah, when I was, it's, like for instance, when I play with classic rock show, if we're doing like the Eagles or something, I'm going to play that one, and then we do Whitesnake, Still of the Night, and I play this one because I need the Floyd for the big whammy drop and the solo and stuff, yeah, so it's like, all of the map, and that's the different signature models. That kind of, that's the reason for it is the the range of stuff I got to do. But hopefully there's something there for everyone. Yeah. For us newbies, what bands were you in? Well, bands. So when I first moved to LA, I had a band called Surreal McCoys that was a pop band that got signed to a Japanese label, and that was kind of my first foray into becoming a professional musician. Now I'm full-time because I got a record deal. Then I did a band called Sparkler after that for a little bit, for about a year, which was a signed band and stuff like that, but kind of not something that you've probably heard of unless you were in LA at the time. Then I did a band called Snapdragon that put out an album on a subsidiary of Atlantic, and then I did a band called 40 Foot Echo that had a little bit of success, especially up in Canada. We had a top 10 rock hit in Canada. It was a Hollywood Records band. But then throughout all this, I started touring as a sideman and stuff and doing that kind of work. So I started playing with Adam Cohen, son of Leonard Cohen. It was one of my first touring gigs. And then Five for Fighting, touring with them as a sideman touring guitarist. And that's where I really started, now I'm on a bus and we're playing like good size, touring with the Goo Goo Dolls and Sheryl Crow and stuff like that. Then I got a gig with a guy named Robbie Draco Rosa, he's big in Latin America. He's from Puerto Rico originally, but he used to be in Menudo with Ricky Martin. That's where they both got their start. And he went on to co-write with Ricky and do Livin' La Vida Loca and She Bangs and these massive songs that were huge, sold millions of copies. So he had his own solo career at Sony, and I was with him during those years for about 2-3 years, touring all over Europe and Latin America and stuff. After that was Courtney Love, who I got with and did a bunch of work with in the studio and wrote a bunch of songs with and stuff like that. Some of that ended up on the Last Hole album. And then through her, I met Linda Perry and started working in the studio with a bunch of artists like Daniel Powder and Alicia Keys and James Blunt and all these different people that I worked with as a studio guitarist. Did a tour with Jewel that year, 2006. And the following year, I got the Chris Cornell gig. And then I was with Chris for next 4 years or so, touring on 2 different album cycles. Played a bit on the Scream album. Did over 300 shows all over the world with Chris and band. Right out of Chris's touring band, as that was winding down, he was going to do Soundgarden, a solo tour. I got in Don Henley's touring band. So then I toured with Don for 6 years after that, on and off. Touring side guy. And halfway through that period, I got with Melissa Etheridge and started touring with her for a couple of years. And I had both the Dawn and Melissa gigs simultaneously. Then this is like a career recap complete. Then I got with Mylène Farmer, who's a big pop star in France, like Madonna of France. Big pop artist. Did her tour. Was in France for about 6 months of 2013. 2014, I got with a guy named Tyoshi Nagabuchi and ended up with him for, still work with him. Just did dates with him a couple months ago. So on and off since then, been with him. He's like a big rock artist in Japan. And reconnected with Five for Fighting a few years back. And so now I tour with them. It seems like every summer we do a little fun run. And I hooked up with the classic rock show thing that I do every year now for the last 6 years in the UK and Europe, sometimes America. We're just a band of friends basically going around and playing covers, but it's great musicians and a nice show with great lights and PA and proper bus tour and the whole 9 yards. That's kind of a new sort of phenomenon that's come out in the last while. The fact that you can go do covers, but on a theater level. And then Satch Vai Band, of course, my most recent with Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, Kenny Aronoff, Marco Mendoza. That's my career in a nutshell. I've missed some things in there, but that's my bands touring situation. And of course, a couple solo albums. Pete Thorn 2, and before that, Guitar Nerd in 2011. Okay, I'm way down in the chat here. I'm going to hang for another 5 minutes, and I'm going to split. We need a Satch Vai Band rig rundown. Yeah, I will do it. You don't need Premier Guitar. That's right. They did one, but I wasn't included. That's okay. Those guys, they're Steve and Joe. They were the stars of the show. And I can do my own. And Premier did do a rig rundown for me in my studio, not that long ago, 2 years ago. 2.5, maybe. That's why I watch you every Sunday. I really love your look on life, your mindset, and kindness. Thank you. Appreciate that. By the way, how do you take your coffee? Thanks, Maggie. I take my coffee just oat milk and an espresso. That's my favorite. But I like pour over sometimes. I like different things, Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat. Somewhere in Europe. Appreciate you. Thank you. Big old super chat. I think that's Peter up there. I got to catch that in just a second. Does a PT-110 or 212 have bracing connecting the front baffle to the back? I believe it does have a post. I think so. Could it be converted to open back? No, but they make one. The Sur makes a nice open back for the Hedgehog. I have one of those actually. It's nice with 65s in it. You could load it with whatever you want, I guess, but it's a nice cabinet. I've actually used one of the closed back with an open back at the same time, and that's actually pretty cool. 2 amps blended, one with the open, one with the closed. That's good. Good rig for sure. You got to take that break. I gigged hard for a long time, lots of regional touring, and then home to club gigs. Took me some time to unwind. Yeah, you got to just get your nervous system chilled, and into the home thing, and not always. You're not nervous, but you feel nervous. When I say nervous system, it's like I'm like the constantly needing to be somewhere and be on and perform kind of thing. It's nice to back that off for a while and still get work done without feeling like this pressure all the time. That's what I'm trying to get into, a little just be nice to myself and maybe start eating more consistently and better, and maybe do some more consistent exercise and stuff like that. Just start taking care of myself a little bit better. That's where I'm at right now. So, yeah. Jen says she'd like to sing a song on my record. We can try that. Why the heck not? I like that idea. Non-recessed Floyd, something that I prefer, but is awesome. Skip. I'm with you, my friend. And actually, I got something, for something coming. I want to do. I quite like how the EVH Wolfgang has their recess done, so you can't pull back. It sits flat against the body. It's flush, but it is sunk into the body a little bit because I love the look of a non-recessed Floyd, but when you look at a Wolfgang, it almost looks non-recessed, right? It's because the recess is done so, it's just, it doesn't go all the way back around the fine tuners and all that stuff, because you're not pulling back on the bar, so it goes underneath the plate at the back or whatever, underneath the fine tuners, but it doesn't go any further back, and it's painted in there, and it's very shallow, so you can just sit the bridge lower so the geometry of the neck and everything stays the same. But so that's something that I'm working on, because I know what you mean. I'm not crazy about I don't like when I see like the modern Charvels and stuff, and they've got a back route all the time. It's like the guitars that I remember, that there wasn't any, back route on a lot of those guitars right? Like the original Berettas and Charvels and stuff like that. They didn't have a back route like that. So there's a way to get the lower geometry or whatever the same, the lower bridge, so that the bridge, because I never like that feel when the Floyd is like so high that it's bending your wrist to get, and then it's just weird to me. But just the perfect height of it, recessed without a huge back route, is kind of, I quite like that. So I wish Sir would build a classic S, but with a modern neck joint. I know what you mean. Yeah, I've often thought about that too. That's kind of these, don't have this. This does have that, right? It's not a block. It's like, so this is pretty good, I think. I've got no problem with this one, actually, but it would be kind of cool if it was like a modern. I agree. If there was that would be a neat thing if they could round it a bit and stuff. It's something cool. But he does do this, which is a little bit, John's all about the subtle little improvements that just kind of fix things. So it does have that on it. Don't forget to smash that like button. It's free and easy. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. Spread this video far and wide. And there's some super chats I'm going to grab here, and then I'm going to split. So there's a big old one for Peter. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, man. Videos this week. LA Clinic. There actually is something that I'm planning for LA. I don't know when exactly, but it's going to be really cool. So it's me and someone else, actually. So I think you'll approve. So I don't know when exactly, but a few months out. But there's something brewing. Videos this week. Should have my big time video done this week. That's the Chase Bliss delay. I got it sitting right here on my desk. Another delay, the Timeline, the new version, got that coming too. So that'll be coming pretty soon. There's a Crazy Tube Circuits pedal that I got to do. So all that stuff, be stuff I'm working on. Plus just a rig rundown. I would really like to do that, because I think it'll also be a good, people will watch that video. It'll be popular. It'll be interesting. I think the Satch Vi rig rundown, where I just play some of the material and I show the sounds that I dialed in for the tour, because I've never really done that. So I think that's valid. So it'll be something I could put together probably relatively quickly. And yeah. Thank you for that big old super chat, Peter. I really appreciate it. You're helping with the helping keeping the coffee flowing around here, my friend, and more than that. So thank you. Appreciate that. Used to be rent could only be raised 5% a year, not anymore. Yeah, I don't know about corporate. I think there's different rules everywhere, obviously, right? But it seemed like kind of a free for all in Santa Monica anyway at the time. I thought they had rent. Santa Monica had rent control, but maybe that's not commercial. So anyway. We see what happened. It's like there's a lot of unoccupied commercial real estate, and that's kind of a problem all over America, right? I mean, you see it all over the place, but it's partially, Amazon and everything else too. But that's also part of the rampant capitalism, right? Just kind of no controls, and one guy is now, making rockets to send to space, and bought Whole Foods, and so he owns your food supply too, and everything. I had lots of feelings about all that stuff, but it's like, yeah, the expense of small business, it's a drag, right? So I don't know what the answer is, though. I'm just an idiot with a high school education. So, but if you let it go crazy, and it doesn't seem good if a very small bunch of people have all the dough, right? And none of us in this chat do, or outside. We're all. But is there any billionaires here right now? Is Jeff Bezos lurking in the, for your coffee fund, says more guitars. Love your show and the knowledge and cool stories. Thanks, man. You sharing how approachable you by us little guys. I'm just a little guy, dude. That's what I was trying to say. We're all in the same boat. You know what I mean? We're all just a bunch of working schmoes trying to navigate this world and have a good time with our friends and family, and and hopefully, make a little scratch, be able to go on vacation every now and then, not lose our minds. That's what we're all doing here. Having fun playing guitar, forget about the problems for a minute. But so sorry I've talked about that at all this time. But I guess it's part of what I do here. Yeah, it's become anyway. Yeah. It's crazy. Privatize the profit, socialize the loss. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Tour return tip of the century, says Jen. I always pack ramen in the middle of my fridge to have it when I return. Because you got nothing else, right? I know that always sucks, like the first day back home, and especially if you get home late and you get into your place, you're like, damn it. I've got coffee, but I don't have any oat milk or any kind of cream. Yeah, I guess it's black coffee in the morning for my first coffee back. Damn it. I generally try and go and do a quick shop on the way home. So at least I got a little bit of food around the house when I get back from tour. Yeah. Double. How's a landlord straight face justify that? Or is that they just shrug it and say, oh, well, that's what was going on, man. I mean, it was literally my rent was, I think I paid, I think it was somewhere around $1,200 I was paying. This is in 2015 for a room in a building, right? For, it was a fair deal, for what it was. I don't know if that sounds like a lot or not very much to some people, but $1,200 for a room, studio room. It was about this size, very similar. It was maybe a little bigger than this room, I think, in Santa Monica. And I had access to another room where, I didn't have any storage there, at all. I had to have a separate storage space. They got mad if I had any more than a few guitar cases in the back of that building and stuff. But I did have a room where I could put my cabinet. I had that isolated in a, all kind of surrounded with soft stuff to cut down the noise and stuff. But that's how I recorded cabinets and stuff in that room. And it was great. I was very happy there. Had that rent gone to $1,500 or something, I'd probably be like, okay, I'll stay. I'll make it work. But no, it was going to $2,400. That was what was going on. I remember I was going to end up paying $2,400 a month. It was just like, that's what I was paying for a 2-bedroom apartment in Santa Monica at the time, for one room in a commercial building. And it was just like out of the blue. It was like, well, next year, this is what's happening. It was like, ugh. So I don't know how many people ended up staying in that space. But it was bonkers, Yeah, it was crazy. That's that story. That was my last studio in Santa Monica. Great show today. Appreciate you and your love for the guitar stuff. Thanks, 40 Great Guitars. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate that. You and Peter and all you guys leaving me. So I really appreciate it. There's a housing shortage crisis in Montreal. I'll have to move. It'll be a smaller place for twice the price. Yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. There's no way around just admitting that it's hard. Like, what the heck, Yeah, COVID, was coming out of that and everything was nothing's been the same, really, has it? Yeah. Yeah. What else? Cornell's Euphoria Morning was brilliant, really brilliant. Such a beautiful album. Yeah, I remember hearing it the first time and hearing, Can't Change Me and going, ooh, that's deep. That's different and deep. It was really cool to hear Chris in a different, I'm glad he did that before Audioslave. Not that I didn't like Audioslave as much, but it was more like just a regular, rock band vibe, which was good. It was cool. They did some good songs and everything, but it was cool that he did Euphoria Morning so that you were like, ooh, the well runs deep, and then kind of went and did another rock project. And because it was like, well, there's this different shades to this guy. So because he'd done Seasons and Sun Shower and those types of songs too. So there was a bit of that, in there where we knew he could do these other things. Pretty cool, Yeah. Yeah. So, I would have heard, oh, well, dude, you got to hear the song Stay With Me. So that's Arthur. Go listen to Stay With Me, uh, which is exactly what you're talking about. It's a song that he did for a television show, I do believe. There might be a version of us doing it, just a little bit of it live, I think, on YouTube, because we did it once. It was a song that he did a covers record, and I think it's on the covers record that came out after Higher Truth. It was a record that finished after he'd passed. But Stay With Me was he did a covers album of a bunch of sort of what he considered to be obscure songs that were underappreciated, like great songs that he loved but that weren't hits, and that's one of them. So listen to his vocal on there, man. I was like, dude, like I remember calling him and leaving him a message when I first heard it and go, were you just trying to do like the greatest like R&B style vocal ever? Like it was so beautiful. The vocal, he was just ripping on this song. So cool. So cool. So give it a listen. Yeah. Well, this has been so fun. Oh, there's no super chat. I miss. There's Arthur. Sorry, buddy. Can I play an A chord on your album so I can say I played on your album? Maybe I should run a contest and like, top 10 or whatever, something or others. I'll get to play one chord on a song, and then I'll put it into a song and like put it together somehow, and everybody gets credit. That's a way to get a song done. Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, man. I appreciate it. I do. All right, you guys. It's been great. But yeah, just found it. Stay with me, baby. Yeah, give it. It's gonna blow your way. This is ask and you shall receive. Super Motown vibes. It's great. When did you work with Chris Cornell, and what do you miss the most about him? Oh man, I mean, he was my friend, so I don't know how to describe other than like it's like that's what I miss the most. But of course, I miss working with him. But I just miss my buddy too. He was funny and just like he had his dry sense of humor and really witty and also just highly intelligent. But I just miss being able to bounce things off him and stuff like that and tell him when something fun happened. Just like I missed my dad or, people that have passed away in my life, my mom. It's like there's times where it hits you, something happens and you think it's funny and you're like, oh, I wish I could call so-and-so and tell them about this because they would appreciate it like no one else. That kind of stuff is what I miss the most. Because we used to, we used to just joke around about stuff like that. I mean, he turned me on to, great movies and like I say, like Flight of the Conchords. He was like, have you seen Flight of the Conchords? When that, I was like, no. He's like, you got to watch the Bowie one first, So for those that don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the Bowie Flight of the Conchords. Search it on Google. You'll find it. Go watch it, and experience what, Chris turned me on to the first time, and I would do the same thing if I heard something or a piece of gear, I was always excited about like recording equipment or, because we used to geek out on studio stuff all the time. Like, have you tried this mic pre? Or he was, before he passed away, he was really hip on the analog summing boxes. So he'd gotten the Neve analog summing, and he was convinced he loved it, and it sounded better than, summing in the box and stuff. So he's like, you got to try this thing. It's great. Or Fatso, from, I remember that, the just EL, it was the Empirical Labs that people made the Distressor. They made that Fatso one too that was kind of supposed to be almost like analog tape sim, fat 2-bus style compressor warmth box thing. He got that and he really loved it, and so we'd geek out on stuff like that and he'd hit me up. I just miss all that. It sucks, eternally sucks. So that's the hardest part. But also when people ask me like, who would you like to play with now, or what would you like to do, the hard one for me is always like Chris. That's it. There's other people I would love to, but I shouldn't say these things never happen, because it's like the one that Joe Satriani and Steve Vai coming out of the blue and being like, hey, do you want to go on tour? It was like, here's something I never even thought was possible. Like what do you even need me for? and then the way that it all went down, the way that we did it, and so that was like, you know, childhood dream that I didn't even know I had come true, sort of thing, you know. So it can still happen, I'm sure. Hopefully that's not over, and other things will happen. You know, I hope so. Anyways, thanks you guys so much. I'll end it on that, and have a terrific week. Fun videos coming this week and stuff. I'll get it all done and out, but at a nice pace where I'm not stressed. Thanks everybody. We'll watch the rest of this football match. Be nice to one another. Have a terrific week. Thanks again for the super chats. Appreciate it. Keeping me caffeinated. Over and out.